What's up, y'all? Alvin here, and this is Question and Answer, Season 3, Episode 1.
I tell the good jokes.
All right, so once again, tons of great questions. So I want to thank each and every one of you for asking a question, whether I answered or not. Some of these I'll probably have to answer next week because obviously we got to do part 2 of season 3. So some awesome questions. Some of them I'm going to have to think about. So if you ask a question and you think it was a good question, maybe I might have even replied to you in the comments about how great of a question it was, and I don't answer it, it's because I'm thinking about it. I usually try not to think too much about these questions. I like to usually just read them and answer them right here live with you. But some of them were just so good, I had to think about it. And a couple of them, I'm probably even going to make a whole video about the question. So those people, definitely, thanks for that. All right, so let's get into it. First question is from Decolonized Meat Eater. The question is, any tips for guiding youth, roughly ages 9 to 16, downriver? I imagine there might be different considerations and approaches with youth versus adult. Definitely. That age group, I would probably split into like maybe the 12 and up and the 12 and under. In my experience, kind of 12, 13, it depends on the kid, but around that age, there seems to be a little bit of a break where, they're a little bit more capable physically and maybe a little bit more able to focus. And that's about the age where I would think about introducing them into fly fishing. Under that, they don't really care that much, most kids, about whether they're fly fishing or they're throwing conventional tackle. And that's kind of how we've done it with our kids as well, So that's a little bit of help, maybe, but it really all depends on the kid. One thing that's really good for kids of any age is trying to get them in a situation where they will have success. Now, we do try to teach our kids and our younger clients that it's not always about catching the fish because, we say that all the time, and it's true. But with the little guys, it's good for them to have some success. So especially the under 12s, a spin casting rod and a piece of shrimp or a worm or something is a really good way to actually get them to feel the excitement of catching a fish. And I know it's not fly fishing, and I know some of you purists out there may say, that's crazy, don't ever use any bait. But, it's a good way to get the kids hooked, so to speak. Anyway, thanks for the question. Hope that helps. Tracker94 wants to know, if you could use only one fishing knot for the rest of your life, what would it be? That's easy, clinch knot. You can do everything with a clinch knot. It's quick and easy to tie, and you can tie lines together. You can tie hooks on. You could probably even use that in place of a blood knot and a bunch of other knots. So clinch all the way. That's my number one knot anyway. Electric RCG wants to know, how do you pronounce your last name? Dedeaux with a question mark. And that is how I pronounce it. That is how a lot of us pronounce it. Dedeaux would probably be more correct, but it's like living here in Texas. We mispronounce things all the time, and that's sort of the accepted pronunciation. And I've actually heard folks from, back in Mississippi where my dad's from saying it's the same thing over there. It's Dedeaux, not Dedeaux, but Dedeaux is proper, and I'll answer to either one. But thanks for the question. I actually think about that myself. Tommy Bell, 6479, wants to know, when did you pick up fly fishing and where are you originally from? I am originally from the fly fishing mecca of Houston, Texas, and that is where I picked up fly fishing. I got a fly rod for my 12th birthday, 7-weight, yellow, fiberglass eagle claw with a martin reel and a level line. Thanks for the question. Okay, this one's from Ryan S. Lundquist. And Ryan wants to know, do you have hobbies or anything fun outside of fishing? Reason I ask is I'm so obsessed with fishing, I often forget some of my other passions and ignore all those potential experiences in life that I don't make time for. So Ryan's concerned he's missing out on other experiences and wondering if I do anything other than fishing. And I do. One thing I really enjoy is this whole camera, filmmaking, technology thing that I'm doing right here with you guys. And it's been really beneficial both for just this YouTube community, but also for my guide service personally and All Water Guide. So I've integrated two of my passions, cameras and technology, filmmaking and fishing. So I'm sure that you can find some stuff, Ryan, or, every once in a while you just got to take a break and do something totally different. But I'm probably not the best person to ask about that because I tend to get a little bit obsessed with my passions as well. Fortunately, I've got a couple that work well together and also allows me to feel good about doing the things that I'm sort of obsessed with. Okay, N. Brooks wants to know, when's the best season or time of year to come to Texas for a fishing trip, either river bass or at the coast? So both of those fisheries are year-round. I would have to say if I was going to pick one time of year, I'd probably pick the fall, although spring can be amazing and even the heat of the summer can be good. I would say whenever you can get down here, if you got a trip planned, just go ahead and go for it and fish. Dead of winter is kind of the toughest season, but we have a little trout fishery south of here that fishes great all winter. And heat of the summer, all the fisheries are happening. You may just have to get out early morning, late afternoon. But that's one of the great things about being here in Texas is we get to fish year-round. Big Sky Outdoors 112 says, hey man, I'm 17 and looking at going into guiding for a career. Do you have any recommendations? Okay, so I got all kinds of recommendations. Number one is just get out there and start doing it. The longer you wait, the longer it's going to take. If I have any regrets about my guiding career is that I didn't start sooner. The other thing is just ignore the haters, man. They're going to be out there. They're going to try to tell you can't do it or whatever. Just ignore it. Put the blinders on. Full steam ahead. Now, a couple of more practical tips. If you're out west, which it looks like you are, most of the fly shops will have some type of guide school. I know there's some great ones out in Montana, and that's probably the best way to kind of jumpstart your career. Get into one of those guide schools, start hanging out with the other guides, start making friends, and just spend as much time as you can on the water. And pretty soon, if the guiding thing is for you, you'll figure it out. It's going to be a grind. It might take you years, but once again, the sooner you start, the better. And good luck. John E. 22 wants to know, how did you learn to tie flies and what's your favorite pattern to tie? So shortly after I got that first rod for my 12th birthday, I started tying flies. I was a model builder, so I had all kinds of balsa wood and paint and stuff like that and was used to, being crafty. So I started tying flies because I couldn't buy any flies. I mean, there just weren't any around. So I kind of taught myself. It was pretty rough at the beginning. I wish I had some of those flies because I remember a few of them that I tied were pretty awesome. At least I thought they were as a 12-year-old. I'd love to be able to see them now. My favorite pattern to tie is the Dedeaux popper, partly because I love topwater fishing, and also that one is super easy to tie, and it catches tons of fish. So, yeah, the Dedeaux popper. Thanks for the question. Simpson 941 wants to know, has anyone asked your take on fly line loops? If not, your opinion. Now, I've answered this one a few times, but I don't mind answering it again. For some reason, this is like a controversial topic. I'm going to say 90% of the time, just leave that loop on there. It's so much more convenient to use the loop-to-loop connection. Almost every leader you buy now is going to have a loop on it. You can loop your fly line on there. And the reality is most of us are not catching fish that are big enough to bust a fly line loop. I mean, It's never happened to me. Now, there are some circumstances where you would want to cut the loop off and do some type of super beefy connection, but unless you're going for, tarpon over 100 pounds or GTs or sailfish or something crazy like that, just save yourself a little drama and just use that loop. Sometimes the loops will wear out before the fly line is worn out. And at that point, yeah, go ahead and cut that sucker off, nail notch your butt section on, and go for it. But like I said, leave it on there. For most people, that's all you're ever going to need. Thanks for the question, and I'll answer it again if somebody asks me next week. Maybe not next week, but I'll answer it again in the future for sure. So here's a few more, and then we're going to have to call it a day on this. It's so much fun for me, and I hope you guys enjoy this because so many good questions. Chase Rogers wants to know, what's up with that Argentina footage? Well, what's up with that Argentina footage is I've got so much footage, and I'm still just kind of going through it, trying to piece something decent together, but I promise I'll put it out sooner rather than later. Thanks for your interest. Okay, Bryce Althoff. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, Bryce. Bryce wants to know, do you ever use fluorocarbon in your leaders? I'm mainly asking from a warm water angler's perspective, bass, panfish, pike, carp. If you do, what situations would you say fluorocarbon has an advantage over monofilament? I'm not real particular about when I use it and when I don't use it. I mean, if I have some and that's the first thing I grab, I'll put it on. Probably the main advantage for warm water anglers is just you can use a slightly larger diameter because, it's going to be harder for the fish to see. And so abrasion resistance would probably be the main reason I would reach for some fluoro. It's just so I can use something a little bit heavier and hopefully the fish won't be able to see it. But I'm pretty unsophisticated when it comes to leaders and all that stuff. I just tend to grab what's close, tie it on, start fishing. But thanks for the question. Mark's man Matthew says, I'm building a micro skiff with my dad. Should I put a jet on it? I'm going to use it in the shallow flats of Port A. Is it worth it, or will a prop on a flat bottom do the job? I'm going to say if you're building a micro skiff and you're going to be fishing, Port Aransas area, I would put a prop on it. Especially on a small boat, one of the big disadvantages of the jet is you lose 30% of your power. So you're going to end up with a much heavier engine than you would if you went with a prop, just to push that boat. If you're fishing somewhere that's weedy, like it can be at times around Port Aransas, the jet is a nightmare. I have run the jet on the coast, and like I said, there are some advantages to it, but for me personally, the disadvantages outweigh the advantages, and I think on a small boat like what you're building, go with the prop. I think you'll be happier. But don't sue me. Anyway, thanks for the question. Woodwood wants to know, is the Koozie under your turnbuckle to help deflect fly lines and flies? Yes, it is. Anything you can do to keep the fly line from tangling, you should do it. Phil H. wants to know, what's your favorite streamer? A clouser. Now, it's not always the first one I pick up, but I can guarantee you I've caught more fish on a clouser than any other streamer out there. Thanks for the question. All right, this question is from BNut 2060. Rasbone or Bad Mother Goose. So most people have heard about my funk band I was in the 80s and early 90s, but I also, for a brief period of time in the 90s, the grunge era, was in a band called Rasbone. You might have called us a grunge band. I'm not sure. I called it a rock band. I really enjoyed both of them. They were very different. One band, I was, one singer out of three in a huge band, and it was a funk band, and it was all about the good times and a positive message. Rasbone was, like I said, a rock band. I was the lead singer. It was definitely a little bit darker message, and it was all about me because I was the guy in the center. They both were fun. I'm glad I did both, But like a lot of other things in life, I'd have a hard time picking which one was best. One definitely lasted longer than the other, and one was definitely a little bit more decadent than the other. But I'm glad I did both. I know that's not really an answer, but that's all I got right now. Okay, here's another music question. This is from Benjamin04. Bad Brains or Minor Threat? Now, this is one I could probably make an entire video about, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. I think Bad Brains, Eye Against Eye, was one of the best rock records ever made. I think the guys that were in Minor Threat are some of the best humans I've ever met. So, kind of hard to make a call on that one. I know it's kind of a cop-out, but like I said, check out my other channel. I'm seriously considering doing an entire video about just that subject, believe it or not. All right. Thanks for the question. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, tons of great questions. I want to thank each and every one of you once again for playing along. I want to thank you for watching the video. I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. This is so much fun. If you liked it, as always, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that YouTube stuff. I'm closing in on 20,000 subscribers, and I'm going to do something cool. So if you haven't subscribed, help me get to 20,000. And yeah, I don't know, maybe give me some ideas of what I should do at 20,000. We're going to definitely do part 2 next week. So if I didn't answer your question, tune in next week. If you got more questions, throw them out there. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And in the meantime, good luck on the water.